Andy, not a tough one off the top. Just how excited are you guys to get out on the blue tomorrow and officially start to define the Andy Avalos era here at Boise State?
Layup, love layups, no doubt. It's a nice little fastball to get started, but the build up to this point, the last 2 months have gone really, really fast. There's been a tremendous amount of work done, mentally, physically, organizationally, and bringing people together. And we're really excited to get out here tomorrow. The weather's gonna be really nice too, so we're looking forward to that.
When when it comes to your staff, how fun have the last 2 months been? I mean, sounds like some of them are living with each other, others are trying to find houses. I know many of them are batching it right now while their families are still looking to move to Boise. But how much fun has that kind of been? And some of them say they don't really want to go home. They'll just spend more time here because of their sleeping on mattresses or whatever.
Needless to say, the last 2 months have flown by because of the amount of work we've been doing, but how fun it has been. There are a few frat houses going on right now, and as we look to find permanent homes and get our families out here for good. Naturally, some of the timelines are a little different with kids being in school and looking for a good transition time for the family and all that stuff. But we're all growing together, excited to be doing this, and it's been a blast. You guys got to see some of the personalities. Obviously, they're really diligent in what they do, but they're fun people to be around as well.
So, Coach, how do you prioritize what you want to achieve in these 15 spring practices?
Well, number one, and always, is to be able to grow this environment that we want to live in, growing and thriving. And by doing so, that's going to build our mentality, our blue collar mentality. So that's always at the forefront. Spring ball has always been designed to build dependable depth, not just depth, dependable depth. Individuals that can execute fundamentals, techniques, be reliable day in and day out. That's what we're looking to build on in spring ball. Improve on our knowledge of situations, whether it be field situations, game situations, and grow as a whole team and playing together in those situations. Naturally, it's offense versus defense in spring ball and in fall camp, but we've got to learn to grow together and play off each other in certain situations as well. And then finally, it's this game it's called tackle football for a reason now. So we got to be a great tackling team, and we've got to have great ball security, and we've got to have ways to take that ball away. So it's all about the ball.
And I'm sure you want to see some competition within some certain position groups. What would be maybe the top 2 or 3 groups you're keeping an eye on?
There are competitions at every single group. It's you guys said it. It's a new staff. It's our first spring together, and it will be no different going forward when we go into camps. It's high competition. You come to a place that believes in competition and believes in mentality. There's going to be competition every single day at practice, and in spring at all positions we want to see. There's going to be guys competing for that dependable depth and creating that depth. There's only 11 guys on the field at one time, and so naturally we're going to eventually come upon who those 11 are on special teams, offense, and defense. But we got a lot of time before we got to put that out there.
Andy, you've been around football since you were a little kid, but you've never been a head coach. What have you done in the last couple months to prepare yourself for that, and how excited are you just to self-evaluate yourself after a couple of weeks of being a head coach?
Yeah, no question. It's been an evaluation process. Well, number one, it's been a tremendous amount of work putting things together, really for the last couple years. And in the event that something like this, this opportunity ever presented itself, and now being able to put those things into place, things that we've learned from various programs we've been at, various coaches, whether it be from head coaches or whether it be from assistant coaches or coordinators that right away, like that guy's going to be a head coach. The way he's organized, the way he leads, the way he communicates, the impact he has on people, and trying to grow those things into being ours. We can't be anybody else. We got to grow those things into us here. And we've had a 30-day evaluation as a staff, as a team, as a family, what we're doing well, where we need to grow, what the things that we need to pay more attention to, that we need to emphasize out of the first 30 days, because there's new things that got to go in the next 30. And as we go along, building ourselves up to this point right here to be able to get on the field, to have great organization, great energy, and play and create this environment, not only in this building, how we train, how we learn inside our facility, but bring that out here to the field where it really matters.
Specifically, I wanted to ask you about the roster a little bit. Is anybody changing positions?
No, there's no drastic fluctuation within DBs, wide receivers are wide receivers, but they may be inside, they may be outside. But for the most part, there is no drastic change. No, sir.
Anybody that, I think we asked you this maybe a couple of weeks, well, I don't know if we did, but anybody that we don't know already that's going to be out for spring ball? Is there any new developments there in the last couple of weeks about who's not going to be in spring ball?
We've made a lot of progress with the guys that had injuries coming out of last year. The guys coming out right out of the gates that will be a little bit limited. Dimitri Washington will be a little bit limited in what we're doing, but he's coming along and progressing really well. Shaq is coming along and progressing really well. He will participate in spring ball to certain levels as we move through it. But overall, the list of guys that are in terms of our return to play, that is really promising, and we'll work to keep it that way.
Andy, the foundation usually begins with winter conditioning for a team, and this is your first session with this group. Did you do anything differently? Did Reed Kagi bring anything new to the table in winter conditioning?
I'm going to let you ask the players that question, but yes, it is very different. We were coming off what was essentially a month break from the end of the season to when we got here. That's a long break. And for everybody across America last year, obviously with the COVID ramifications and the protocols, the training for everybody just was not the same. So naturally, we had to do a really good job, and Coach Kagi and the staff did an unbelievable job prepping the players' bodies for a solid 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, before we even started to really push the developmental phase within the winter conditioning. And we extended the winter conditioning into spring, actually 1 more week. We extended it and pushed it back right out of the gates back in January to give us that extra time of development. We're always trying to work off an 8-week cycle before we get into spring ball in terms of not only strength and conditioning, but what we call our football school. And that's to prep the guys in the classroom. That's something that builds right along with the strength and conditioning process that eventually leads us right into spring ball and obviously getting on the field and being able to operate.
You talk about dependable depth. Is there one position group right now where you feel you do have dependable depth?
We starting on the defense side of the ball, the safety group is they've got some depth, and we got some returning starters, and we've got some really good young talented players that will have to continue to grow and prove that day in and day out that they can do this at a high level, and they're very capable of doing that. And so we're excited to see them and help them do that. Interiorly on the D-line, we're excited about the 2 returning guys, with Scott and Scale. Those guys have been tremendous through this winter phase leading into spring ball, and what they are doing is an unbelievable model for what it looks like, how it should be done, how they're working. And so we're excited about the depth there at that position with the guys behind them and how they can grow forward. And so obviously that's on the defensive side of the ball. We're pretty deep there, and then the wide receiver position on the offensive side. Yeah, it's there's no question we'll have a 6 deep, and we are going to roll guys in. We're going to stay fresh. We're going to have a six deep of guys that are, again, they can execute the fundamentals and the techniques that make the schemes and be really consistent with those things. And so the quarterback position, obviously, we got 2 guys that have played, a good amount of football. They have experience. They're obviously working within a new offense, but Coach Plow and those guys, they're meshing, they're rolling right now. And it's been really fun to see their growth, not only in terms of the scheme, but in terms of how they work off each other, how they work together. Hank and Jack, the way they help each other can only be such a great example to the rest of the team of, yes, there's only one quarterback on the field at one time, but how they work together, that symbolizes our brotherhood and how we've always operated here and how we'll continue to operate in terms of, iron sharpens iron. and we feel good about the O-line and their progress through this winter. It's been tremendous now. Seeing those guys' mobility and some of the things that Coach Kagi and our strength staff have done, not only with that position group, their ability, their flexibility, their initial movements, their ability to move in space. It's really promising, and obviously their explosiveness, their ability to come off the ball and come out of their hips. We're looking forward to seeing that this spring.
Hey, Coach. As far as the quarterback competition does go, what have you said specifically to Hank and Jack about their chances to start here?
You know what? More specific, we don't talk about. We talk about the right now, what we need to do, how we need to lead from within our own space, the things that we can do to not only grow as an individual, and I'm not talking about execution of the offense. We're talking about what leads to helping us execute the offense. And that starts with being a great leader, how we model that, how we teach, how we coach at that position, because there comes a certain level of expectation and knowledge and experience that allows us to do that. We can't do that if we don't have the right relationships. We can't lead if we don't have the right relationships, and it doesn't start right here on the field. We've been working to build those off of the field, not only from player to player and within this quarterback to O-linemen, wide receivers, running backs, and everyone else involved, tight ends, but, player to player, coach to coach. And so that's one thing that we've, in terms of expectations and how we'll move forward, that's something that we're really looking to see from those guys. From there, the efficiency of the offense, and I know Coach Plow's been through a bunch of that stuff and what we're looking for there.
You weren't here, obviously, when Jack transferred in. I'm sure you've seen every throw he's made on tape. What has he shown you that makes him think he has a good chance to be your starter week one?
You know what? They both possess really good skills, obviously, in the pocket. Their ability to throw the ball. It's been a long while since I've seen Jack throw in person, but I've seen him throw on TV and obviously watched the tape and all that stuff. But his ability to operate, his ability to execute efficiently in terms of our walkthroughs that we've been able to have, those are the things that are exciting. He is coming out of a year where he did transfer, and we were in the pandemic. Naturally, a little challenging to build those relationships, and I think both he and Hank are doing a great job of taking the opportunity now that we're coming out of this pandemic and some of those protocols to be able to build these relationships. And again, not only with the O-line and the wide receivers, but then themselves. And you guys will see that. You'll see what that looks like. Those guys are working diligently together.
How do you set the tone for a spring practice in the Coach Avalos era? Is there a game plan for that when you guys hit the blue for the first time? Like, here's what it's going to look like.
We've been training that way since winter conditioning started. It doesn't start in when we come out here for the first spring practice. Our purpose and our mentality is everything we do. That's more important than the X's and O's and everything else. And our whole staff, obviously Coach Kagi and our strength staff, have done an unbelievable job with our growth mindset, and that's what that entails. Is how we compete is directly correlated to how we've grown mentally. This is a physical game, but our physical requires our mental to be on point. And so we've been working on that since back in January. I think what we always strive to do, whether it's in a workout, it's in practice, when we eventually get to competition, it's always going to be start fast, elite execution, and relentless finish. And so we don't wait to get out on the practice field to start that. We teach, we train how we want to play.
Andy, this will be your first official practice as head coach for your alma mater. Regarding tomorrow afternoon and being back here on the blue, what are you most excited about?
To be back out here on the blue and see the guys come out here and work to get better, to do the things that we're talking about, to have fun doing it, to smile, to laugh, to compete, to push each other, and to do it right here on this field. Thank you, Mother Nature, for letting us have some nice weather so we can, the very first one, come out here on the blue and do this tomorrow. and it's going to be a great opportunity, obviously, for you guys to be able to come out. We'll be outdoors, and that's the exciting part. All the hard work that's gone in for the last 2 months here. It's been challenging. It's every single day, keeping the energy right, focusing on the things that are really important. So here we go. We get to put it together tomorrow afternoon.
Talking with Coach Miley yesterday, I was fascinated. He said he watched every rep of his defensive linemen last year. Curious for you, how deep of a dive have you taken with your film study of last year and the year before?
Well, I always watched. I didn't stop watching. Okay, so I mean, naturally, I've always watched. In the off seasons, I've watched. We've helped each other even when I was gone. We've helped each other here, and so I've always been dialed in and paying attention into what's going on. Naturally, my alma mater, I have a love for this place, whether I'm here or not here. And even while I was gone, I paid a lot of attention to what was going on. So very excited about the young men that are in this program and what they're capable of doing.
Thanks, Andy.
Coach, you guys recently added Caleb Biggers to a cornerback room that doesn't have very much experience. I think he has like 19 career starts.
Yeah, we're going to stay away from talking about the guy. We're going to talk about guys that are on the team right now that are here.
For sure. Okay. So in that young cornerback room, what do you want to see out of that position specifically this spring?
Growth, number one. We're talking about dependable depth right out of the gates, and that starts with that mentality. And in order to achieve those things, we've got to go back and we've got to make sure we understand how to learn. We got to make sure we're organized in the fashion so that we can learn in the classroom setting, and so that what we learn in the classroom, we can bring that to the field. And on the field, we'll have greater confidence to grow, to learn. We are going to mess things up. We're young, right? We don't have a lot of experience there, but that's okay. That's why we're out here in the spring and building the confidence to know that we are going to make mistakes, but that's okay because we know how to learn. And that's how we intend to build, at that position.
And what can you tell us about the extent of Shaq's injury and the rehab he's undergone?
Yeah, he had a lower half injury that we needed to get cleaned up coming out of the season, and it pained him to watch a lot of this winter conditioning. He was in doing his own rehab and getting ready, and he's getting tuned up. He'll be out here before you know it.
Did it require surgery?
Yes, it did.
Thank you.
Mike kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but now that you're head coach, how do you feel like things might differ a little bit for you? For the last 2 decades, the head coach had an offensive background and always seemed to kind of gravitate towards the quarterbacks or the offensive guys during practice. Are you going to be super hands-on? Do you step back or try to step back a little bit more? What do you think your approach will be?
On both sides, coach the start and the finish, the pre-snap operation, how we finish plays. And we got tremendous coaches that will handle the execution and what happens in between there, but that's the fun part. And then on special teams, be very involved with the drills and helping Coach Collins with anything that I can. Naturally, the amount of football that I get to actually coach and do now has minimized. There are a lot of other meetings, strategizing what we're going to do on third and medium, in the red zone, or third and medium out in the middle of the field, or third and long in the 4-down territory, and getting ready to prepare for what they're going to do on 4th down. That's not for me anymore. So there's a lot of other things that we take from being competitive and wanting to put an elite plan together to succeed on the field. There's a lot of other things and areas where we get to apply that now, and that's the fun part about it. It's still a competition.
One more, and that's with Jeremiah now finally, here on campus for 2 months. How has your guys' relationship continued to evolve, and anything exciting in the works that either you can reveal or at least tease us about?
Well, I will say this. We are working really hard, and it's been fun. Love his vision, love his passion. He's much like a football coach, just like us. He's been in transition. He doesn't have his family here quite yet, but they will be here soon, and that'll be awesome to get them here. And I say that because it's not always that easy to work as hard as he's been and be as diligent and see as many people and work on certain projects that we will talk about that hopefully will come to fruition here soon. But it's been fun. The alignment and the collaboration is no different than what we do in our building over here. We're growing that together and how we operate together. As we work through spring ball here, we're looking to have opportunities as COVID protocols allow us, as we work out of this pandemic. We would love at some point to be able to get people in this stadium, but we're working through that still. We have no official timeline on that yet, but as soon as we do, we're going to be excited to get that information to you guys so that we can build that up, build the steam leading up to that, and we'll see. Only time will tell. There's a lot of things that are out of our control, but we have a lot of ideas that we do want to get rolling on.
Andy, it sounds like your roster for the most part is really healthy going into spring ball. You've mentioned a couple of guys, and last year was such a tightrope physically for these guys. How physical are you going to be in the spring, and will quarterbacks be live?
You know what? We will have very few situations where the quarterbacks will be live. It has been made very, very, very clear that we protect the quarterback on both sides of the ball. We protect the quarterback on offense, we protect the quarterback on defense, and we protect the quarterbacks on special teams. So there will be a few situations where, a little contact they'll need a little bit of that, but we're going to have a very physical spring ball. This is a physical game. We've got to teach them, we've got to train them the way we want to play. And so if we intend to play with mentality and physicality, we've got to operate that way. Now, there's a smart way to do that too. Now, there's a very smart way of doing that, and taking care. Number one, teaching proper ways of fundamentals and techniques to play physical and to unleash that mentality. And how much of that consecutively we do, there's patterns that we strongly believe in that we can get that done and still keep our players fresh, because if they're not fresh, they're not going to be able to develop. And then we're working against ourselves.
You talked about a couple position groups where there's a pretty good abundance of dependable depth, to use your phrase. What are the position groups where you really need to beef up your dependable depth?
Starting on offense, the running back position, those guys, we feel good about the players in that room and the guys, what they have done off the field and how they've trained through the winter. Really excited to see those guys compete. George has the most experience out of all those. George is an elite player. But you've got to have more than one running back. George is an elite player, an elite young man. We're really excited about that. The tight end position, continuing to grow those guys. Riley moving over. Boy, Riley's awesome now. He's unbelievable in terms of his preparation, his care factors through the roof in all phases. We're growing into a really good leader for our team. And he's gotten a little bit bigger, and I think when people see how he moves around and what he's capable, he's an issue for defenses. His matchup, there'll be some matchup issues with him. And so moving on the defense side of the ball, we want to continue to build, like we talked about at the cornerback position, and also during this spring, we have some younger edge guys that we want to make sure that we grow along. And because we can never have enough guys up front. It all starts up front with the O-line and the D-line. And obviously I didn't say that either, but within the offensive line, building that group, we've got to build the depth within that group as well. It always starts up front.
You said something earlier that kind of interested me. You've seen a lot of quarterbacks on film, been watching a lot of tape, but you're excited to see them live. What can a football coach see from a quarterback, the way he throws live, as opposed to watching it on film?
Well, you can see things in between snaps, for one thing, that you can't see on film, which has a lot to do with being a leader on the field, whether that's a safety or an inside linebacker or whether that is a quarterback. How they operate between the snaps has a lot to do with how they're going to operate when that ball snaps. And so being able to see those things and watch those things, and that's why I say, for me, it's about the start and the finish. And then obviously the timing and seeing where we're at within the new offense and our footwork and how that ball releases and with our timing. And obviously that takes a tremendous amount of work with the wide receivers and the tight ends as well.
I got one small one. In the past 2 months on social media, your players have been going nuts in a very good way. There seems to be an incredible amount of energy surrounding this team. How would you characterize it?
It's fun. Yeah. Every day we try to, we we've come upon an agreement that if we want it to be that way, we got to bring it to the building every day that way, and that's how everybody involved. And as long as we're all working together and truly taking care of each other as people, and that's at the forefront of what we're doing. Yes, there's this unbelievable game that we get to be a part of, but we're people first, and we want to have fun learning and growing, not only in football, in life, and got to handle that. Got to get that degree. You know, that's maybe not the fun part for them all the time, but we find ways to make that fun too. And so it is a game, and we want to make sure that we keep that excitement. The standards to be in this program have always been really, really high. They will continue to be that way. The amount of discipline and self-accountability, it's required to be in this program, but we've got to make sure it's fun too. So we're excited for you guys to see that when you get the opportunity to come out here tomorrow afternoon.